Ukraine once possessed the world's third-largest nuclear arsenal. Today, it relies heavily on Western military aid to defend itself against a full-scale invasion. But does the support Ukraine receives now match the power it once had and gave up? In this video, we break down the numbers, how much Ukraine gave up, how much it has received, and what this means for the future. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, Ukraine inherited a massive nuclear stockpile, making it the third-largest nuclear power in the world. The numbers were staggering: 1,900 nuclear warheads, enough to rival both the US and Russia. 176 intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, including SS-19 Stiletto and SS-24 Scalpel systems. 44 strategic bombers, capable of delivering nuclear strikes anywhere in the world. In today's terms, the estimated value of this arsenal, a strategic asset of unimaginable power, would range between $300 billion and $500 billion. In 1994, Ukraine agreed to give up its nuclear weapons under the Budapest Memorandum in exchange for security guarantees from the United States, the United Kingdom, and Russia. The reasons were complex: lack of operational control. Ukraine's nuclear weapons were still tied to Soviet-era command codes in Moscow. Economic pressure: maintaining nuclear capability would have cost billions of dollars.
Attention, account, fire.
Western assurances: Ukraine was promised security and sovereignty in return. But when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014, and again in 2022, those guarantees proved to be less than ironclad. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the United States has become Ukraine's biggest military backer, providing over $113 billion in aid. But how does this compare to what Ukraine gave up? $46 billion, weapons and military equipment. $27 billion, financial aid to support Ukraine's economy. $16 billion, humanitarian assistance. That's less than half the estimated value of Ukraine's former nuclear arsenal. Let's compare some of the most expensive military assets Ukraine receives today with what it once had. Patriot air defense system, $1 billion per battery. F-16 fighter jet, $15 to $20 million per aircraft. Leopard 2 tank, $5 to $7 million per unit. HIMARS rocket launcher, $4 to $5 million per unit. NASAMS air defense system, $600 million per unit. Even with these advanced systems, no amount of conventional weaponry matches the strategic deterrence of nuclear weapons. Could Ukraine have maintained its nuclear weapons? Yes, but it would have faced a few major obstacles. Ukraine had no nuclear launch codes. Moscow controlled them. Ukraine lacked the infrastructure and funds to sustain nuclear forces. But if Ukraine had kept even a fraction of its nuclear stockpile, would Russia have dared to invade? The numbers tell a sobering story. Ukraine gave up a nuclear arsenal worth $300 to $500 billion in exchange for security guarantees that ultimately failed.
This was signed in 1994. 20 years later, one of the three countries that signed that agreement hasn't just not provided for their defense, they actually invaded them. Think about if you're one of these other countries around the world right now that feels threatened by your neighbors. What kind of lesson do you think this instance sends to them?
Now, it fights for its survival with less than half that amount in military aid. If history teaches us anything, it's that security guarantees are only as strong as the willingness to enforce them, and Ukraine has paid the ultimate price for trusting in them. So what's the lesson here? Will the world learn from Ukraine's mistake, or will history repeat itself? And most importantly, will Ukraine ever regain a security deterrence like the one it gave up? Thanks for watching, and let us know your thoughts in the comments.